If the wall hadn't fallen, Germany would be a very sad country, a poor country, a country that isn't free.
Among my friends, we never talk about people coming from the East or the West. It's more like Germans and Bavarians.
When I look at all the people growing up in countries with social problems, I see that I have options and a future.
My generation wants to look to the future, accomplish things, see the world.
A lot of doors are open to us, sometimes too many.
They grew up in one Germany, and for them, the division of Germany is something they only know from stories and history books. They're young Germans who were born in 1989 and 1990, when the country was being reunified. Like no other generation before them, they're at home in the digital world. They're well-traveled and think globally. Does East and West still matter to these young people? What do they have in common? What are their hopes and concerns? And where do they want to go? The children of German reunification.
If the wall hadn't fallen, we'd never have met.
Gloria Jasionowski is from Western Germany and was born in 1990. Hendrik Kober was born in 1989 in the eastern part of Berlin. They've been a couple for 3 years now and live together in Berlin. They still take walks along the former border strip.
Hendrik brought me here soon after we met. It's very moving to think about what happened here at the wall, what was done to people, what people might have felt who stood here.
If things had gone differently, I would have had to learn about the other side from TV and radio. And I'd feel like a captive because I'm a person who loves freedom.
Although Gloria and Hendrik are only in their mid-20s, they already have 2 children, Linda and Paula. That's not typical of their generation. But it wouldn't have been unusual back in communist East Germany.
I do take for granted some of the things people had in East Germany. We tend to forget about that and remember East Germany only as a dictatorship. But East Germans took daycare for granted, for example. In the West, most mothers stayed home.
The young parents often face challenges. Gloria is studying to be an illustrator. After their first daughter was born, Hendrik stayed at home at first to take care of the baby so that Gloria could continue her studies. Now with their second child, Gloria has taken parenting leave. After that, she plans to finish her degree.
I couldn't imagine just staying at home. I also need time to draw, a sense of achievement. I need to see that besides being a mother, I can also do other things.
Hendrik began his studies with the idea of becoming a social education worker, but quit the program because he found it too theoretical. Now he's training in early childhood education.
I see I'm needed. I work with children who have very serious disabilities, children who have to be diapered, who can't do much for themselves. But when they smile, all the hard work is worth it.
In their day-to-day lives, Hendrik and Gloria rarely notice the differences in their backgrounds. But they still see some conflicts between East and West in their generation.
Our generation is the last one to be really affected by the division of East and West Germany. I was born in the East, but went to high school in Western Berlin. The first 2 years were hard. The kids said people from the East smell. They're good for nothing. They're just a financial burden. They picked that up from home. They didn't know any better. Later, they ended up apologizing to me.
According to a recent survey commissioned by Deutsche Welle, Hendrik isn't alone with that experience. 25 years after reunification, a bit more than half of young Germans of his generation say there are no differences in mentality between the former East and West. But 46% say they still do see those differences. That's even more common among young people from the former East.
I've toured in the East, but I don't really notice any difference at all. I'm a bit crazy, nuts. That's the same thing, but I'll say it twice. And I'm a very nice guy.
For many young Germans, Joka to Loulou needs no introduction. He's a star on YouTube.
I've wanted to be famous since I was a boy, but it's still hard to believe sometimes.
Joka to Loulou is known for his online comedy sketches. His YouTube channel has had more than 7 million hits. He often films sketches with passers-by on the street.
Would you like to take part in a little challenge against him? It works like this. I know it looks easy, but you have to cover his eyes, and he covers your eyes.
3, 4. Oh, das berührt. 4, du Lauch.
His trademark is street comedy.
You never know what will happen, if they'll respond positively or negatively. That fascinates me, and I enjoy sending people up a bit. My biggest fear is that my attitude might change, that I'd become pessimistic and see the world in shades of grey. That would change my life.
Joka often tours Germany with his comedy sketches.
The big wall fell, but the small walls in people's hearts still exist. People who don't mix with others because of skin color, religion, and so on. Those walls still need to be torn down.
Joka to Loulou was born in Hamburg in 1989. His parents are from Ghana. When he was still in high school, Joka started out dancing in videos and singing in a band. After graduating from high school, he did a stint with the German military. Recently, he moved to Cologne, a center for YouTubers.
The idea of home or my homeland is a tough one for me. When people ask me where I'm from, I give them a meter-long reply. In Ghana, I'm a foreigner. When I'm there, I'm the German. So my homeland is where I grew up, and that's Germany.
Joka mainly earns his living as a media designer. Like many YouTubers, he signed up with an agency which helps him with the professional side and with marketing. But he also wants to use his online success to raise awareness of topics he cares about. One of his most famous videos is a racism street test.
How racist is Germany, really? I've got a very ugly racist message here, and I'll ask them if they have the heart to translate it for me or not.
Do you speak a little bit English? A little bit. Like, he wrote me a message in German, but I don't really understand it. So could you just translate it for me? Yeah, perfect. Let's just.
It's not nice what he wrote to you. No, I don't want to translate. Okay. Sorry, but
it's not your fault.
No. You should meet him. He's not nice.
I'm happy to raise the issue of racism, not because it's been a big issue for me, but it is for others. Right now, I have a bigger audience than most dark-skinned YouTubers, so I see myself as a kind of spokesperson for them.
A professional YouTube star who uses the internet to market himself. That's not unusual for the younger generation, the digital natives. Recent studies say 14 to 19-year-olds in Germany spend more time online than watching TV. They spend about 4 hours a day online, more than double the German average. They surf, look up information, check their emails, and hang out on social media sites. Video sites like YouTube come in 4th place.
I'm so glad that the internet exists. If the internet didn't exist, Renk wouldn't exist either. The internet gives us all sorts of ways to reach people we otherwise couldn't reach.
Viele Menschen zu erreichen, die man sonst nicht erreichen würde.
My 3 main characteristics are a positive attitude, creativity and ambition.
We're at an editorial meeting of the online magazine Renk in Berlin. Melissa Karakash is the founder and publisher.
Renk means colour in Turkish. The magazine is about German-Turkish culture. We put culture and creativity at the centre and work to break down clichés. There's a cliché that's captured by the sentence, Aisha wears a headscarf and Ali carries plastic shopping bag from Aldi. And that's not where we are.
Melissa lives in the Prenzlauer Berg district of what used to be East Berlin. More than 25 years ago, the wall divided the city into 2 parts here. Today, the former border strip is a park.
The history of the wall didn't mean much to me until I moved to Berlin. The wall came down when I was born. I didn't grow up with it. It's hard to imagine that a wall once stood here and kept families apart. There are a lot more opportunities here in Berlin, for example, with Renk. Maybe because the city has had to deal with the removal of the border. Maybe that's why my topic, even though it's about borders of a different sort, fits in better here than in other places.
Melissa Karakash was born in Herten in Western Germany in 1989. Her parents are from Turkey. They're both teachers. Melissa studied graphic design in Dortmund. In 2013, she moved to Berlin to enroll in a master's program. At the same time, she founded a graphic design agency with a friend.
Our generation has many more opportunities to pursue our own goals and to launch projects that might not have been possible before using the internet. A lot of doors are open to us, but sometimes there are too many options. Knowing what you want to do is really worth a lot. The worst thing for me, I think, would be if I had to stop what I'm doing now. Because I really love what I'm doing. Ferhat did a photo shoot with some children. Today is Bayram, the sugar feast. I want to Instagram that.
For now, Melissa is still financing Renk herself. The authors and photographers work for free and are scattered across Germany. Renk mostly features reports and photo series about German Turks who in some way break the mold.
For me, the word integration has almost been overused. It's outdated in a way. I don't think it really captures my generation. Integration isn't really an issue for me because I see myself as post-migrant. My parents emigrated, they were migrants. I'm familiar with both cultures, but I haven't really gone through a process of integration myself at all.
The editorial office of Rank is located in Kreuzberg, a Berlin district that's been shaped by Turkish immigrants, their children and grandchildren. Among young Germans with an immigrant background, those with Turkish roots are the largest group.
I used to wonder, am I German now? Or am I Turkish? Which hat should I wear? Now I slide back and forth depending on the day. I don't have a problem with being German. I'm happy to be German. Wave a German flag. I'm proud of Germany.
Many young Germans tend to be wary of nationalism. According to a recent survey, only about 30% of young Germans say they're proud of being German. But the majority, about 70%, call Germany an international role model.
I'm convinced that we're extremely privileged here in unified Germany, at least in the material sense. Especially in comparison. I spent a year in Bolivia, and the way young people grow up there, there's just no comparison.
Dann ist das kein Vergleich.
My dream is to be a disciple of Jesus.
Tobias Schreurs joined the Catholic Dominican order in 2009.
Die Frage danach, wie bin ich
The question of how I decided to become a Dominican monk is very difficult for me to answer. Of course, I was always interested in religion. I was fascinated by the liturgy, the worship, prayers, the church music, the singing. But it also has something to do with the heart, and that's hard to explain.
Tobias lives in the Sankt Bonifaz monastery in Mainz, along with 12 fellow monks.
What makes my life different from my peers is that I'm not in a relationship. I'm making my way through life alone. When other people retreat into the private sphere, they're still a couple. For us monks, there's a void there, a place of loneliness. But that's not really a negative thing. It's a place where we can think about God or meditate.
Und das ewige Licht leuchtet ihnen. Und erfülle ihre Hoffnung durch Christus unseren Herrn. Amen.
Tobias was born in the town of Nettetal in North Rhine-Westphalia in 1989. He grew up in a village near Germany's northwestern border. He became active in the church at a young age. In 2011, he started studying theology in Mainz.
Der Gegensatz von Ost und West wird dann für mich zum Thema.
I notice the difference between East and West when I visit the former East or meet people from East Germany, especially when it comes to the Catholic Church. You do see differences.
Ja, andere Verhältnisse vorfinden kann.
The East German parishes that survive the East German regime tend to be very close-knit. They stick together. Where I'm from, everybody is Catholic, so it doesn't take as much conviction to remain in the community. Sometimes at university, students ask me what I'm studying. When I tell them theology, that gets people's attention. And when I say I'm planning to be a priest, that sometimes ends the back and forth conversation. Then I'm the focus, this rare, exotic creature. But people are curious and interested. So unlike the hipsters, I'd say we're living the real alternative lifestyle. I'd say my generation is apolitical, more pragmatic than ideological. They're building up their resumes, getting internships and degrees, and then a good job. But there's also a risk in that.
Das ist eben auch eine Gefahr.
Tobias has committed himself to the 3 vows of his order: poverty, obedience, and chastity.
Die Sexualität ist natürlich da, wo zwei Menschen miteinander schlafen.
Sexuality in its purest form is when two people sleep together. But it also has to do with the basic need for intimacy. What kind of a person would I be if I said I had no need for intimacy?
Egal wie schwer das manchmal sein kann, Verzicht zu üben. Verzicht ist immer schwer. Das, was am Ende.
But even though it's hard, remaining faithful to my promises is what will make me happy over the long term. And chastity is a part of that.
Ich glaube, dass der Glaube für meine Generation.
Faith could and does play a major role for my generation. But people have problems with the church and other social organizations that ask them to join and commit themselves. That's a problem for political parties, and it's a problem for the church.
Das Problem haben die Parteien, das Problem hat auch die Kirche.
In questions of faith, there is a distinct difference between Western and Eastern Germany. According to one survey, half of young West Germans believe in God. In the former East, that number is only around 30%.
Right now, I don't believe, but I always think that might change at some point in my life. I still don't want to baptize my children now, though. I'd rather wait until they can make that decision themselves.
We're back in Berlin with Gloria and Hendrik. When they met 3 years ago at a music festival, they quickly realized they wanted to build a future together.
Sometimes you need a thunderclap, a bolt of lightning when you look at someone. That's what we felt.
Danke.
Hey. A lot of people give up a relationship much too quickly. They think they'll find someone better, more perfect. I don't think it works that way.
Getting to know someone is easier than establishing a relationship. For our generation, when they meet someone, it usually moves really fast. It's basically get drunk, have sex, and goodbye.
Like most of their generation, Gloria and Hendrik aren't married. Only 6% of those born in 1989 and 1990 have already tied the knot.
Our generation might seem more fickle because we're more self-assured, especially women. If I spend 2 years with someone and realize he's not the one, I'll move on, however many times it takes. In the past, we were more financially dependent. Home is the most important thing in my life, a place where I can go and feel complete and just be myself.
Ich auch ein Teil des Ganzen bin und einfach nur ich selbst sein kann. Danke, dass du mir Zeit Früher mussten Weinköniginnen immer Dirndl anziehen.
Wine queens used to have to wear dirndls and wave all the time, which isn't my thing. But then I realized they're very knowledgeable, and many go on to serious careers. So I decided to give it a try.
Being a wine queen is a full-time job. By the time her year is over, Yanina will have made some 250 appearances. In addition to trips abroad, she pays regular visits to German wine-growing regions, such as her home state of Rhineland-Pfalz.
I'm from West Germany, but at this point, I'd call myself European. The idea of Germany being divided into 2 separate parts doesn't cross my mind. Regional identity is important to me, but it's a question of identity, not borders.
Yanina was born in October 1989, just weeks before the fall of the wall. She comes from a family of vintners. In the summer of 2014, she received her bachelor's degree in history, Latin, and philosophy. She was crowned German wine queen shortly afterwards.
I have to stand up for myself and show people that I can do more than they might expect. Modern women want to be taken seriously and be seen as independent and competent.
Yanina is constantly on the go, visiting trade fairs, giving speeches and interviews, and organizing wine tastings. All of this to promote German wine.
Meanwhile, I enjoy the traveling. It's lovely to have been able to see so much of the world and Germany in just 1 year. As wine queen, I do visit the 2 wine-growing regions in eastern Germany and meet people there. The young people still tend to feel they've got some catching up to do. But on the whole, I'd say those borders don't play much of a role anymore. It's no surprise if young people of my generation don't feel quite as rooted. The world has become smaller. You can fly anywhere in a day.
Like no generation before them, this one grew up in a globalized world. Perhaps that's why a sense of home and place is so important to some of them.
For me, it's an honor to be mayor of a place I call home. That was my personal goal in a way. And home, that's where you go and you know where you are and you can just be yourself and relax. My greatest strengths are that I can listen, that I want to help and provide support, and that I'm solution-oriented and don't waste time talking.
These qualities serve him well in his work. Philipp Wesemann is mayor of the small town of Forst in the state of Brandenburg.
People seem to think a mayor is a man in his early 50s. With glasses, an established man, tough as nails. That's why they're surprised that I'm the mayor. I'm not a cliché 25-year-old. I have enough self-confidence to talk to people on their level, to hold serious conversations, to listen to people's ideas, and present my own. That's not what people expected. They figured I was some nutty kid who decided to become mayor.
Philipp Wesemann was born in September 1989, just a few weeks before the fall of the Berlin Wall. After training as a biology lab technician in Berlin, he moved back home to Forst and joined the Social Democratic Party.
I voted in my first election when I was 18. A municipal election. When I saw the election ballot and the list of Social Democratic candidates, I thought, oh God, they need help. They're all so old.
In March 2015, Philipp was elected mayor.
Yes, Philipp here. Hello. I got a reply from Section 60.
His term runs for 8 years.
If the wall hadn't fallen, I would probably also be living here, but with a completely different career, I hope. I'm glad I wasn't alive back then. Today, we make our own decisions about politics, and that's much better.
Forst, with just under 20,000 residents, is on the eastern edge of Germany on the Polish border. Like many towns in the former East Germany, Forst has to cope with an aging population and many abandoned buildings.
There used to be pre-war buildings here. The East German government demolished them to put up prefab concrete buildings, which are now obsolete. Back then, people sneered at towns that still had old historic districts. No one thought that one day they might draw tourists to the city, so this does make me sad.
Today he's having lunch with his best friend Sarah and his boyfriend Stefan. Philip never tried to hide their relationship, even during the election campaign.
Some people have a hard time with me being so open, so they don't say anything to avoid embarrassment. Others accept it and find it quite normal.
I always say our mayor's a regular guy.
Being mayor means, among other things, not having much of a private life. It's not so easy to hang out with your friends in a restaurant and have a laugh. It's a big change for a 25-year-old.
Das ist für einen 25-Jährigen schon ein großer Einschnitt.
Philip's next appointment is taking a group of older SPD members from Western Germany on a tour of the town and its history. They spent most of their lives in West Germany, and they're old enough to remember how it was when the country was divided.
The generation that fought for reunification does say it was a good thing, but they also say there's been a downside and that there are still prejudices. It's different with the younger generation. They think differently.
Philip isn't only a very young mayor, he's unusual in other ways. According to a survey commissioned by Deutsche Welle, only about a third of Germans his age are active in politics or social affairs. Of those, most work with children or teens, or are active in a sports club. Only 16% are politically active, and 14% are involved with a church or their community.
For me, it's important to do something where you see you're contributing to society, or where you're improving or bettering the lives of other people. That's why I always knew I wanted to do something like that. My most important qualities are that I enjoy trying new things, like taking risks, and I'm always ready for adventure.
Katharina Meyer is from Munich. After she finished university, she and a friend founded a startup. It's a small bakery with an innovative idea, employing only senior citizens.
We came up with the idea because we both said our grandmother's cakes are delicious, but why can't we buy them anywhere? You see increasingly that senior citizens nowadays are more isolated and that they're having difficulty making ends meet. So we thought it'd be great to make use of their skills and have them bake here professionally.
The two founders, Katharina Meyer and Katrin Blaschke, spend up to 12 hours a day in the office or at the bakery coordinating the work. They bake 3 times a week. More than 20 retirees work here part-time to supplement their pensions.
A lot of people tell us we're so courageous, but when you launch a startup, you believe in your idea or you wouldn't be doing it. Other people have doubts and think you're being courageous, but that's not how we see it.
Katharina was born in Munich in 1989. After finishing school, she did an apprenticeship in hotel management. Then she went to university and studied social and health management. Along the way, she traveled extensively. In 2014, she and her friend Katrin founded their bakery. In March, they'll open their own store, financed mainly through crowdfunding. Part of the job is exchanging information and experience with other young entrepreneurs. Katharina often attends startup seminars, some of them in Eastern Germany.
No one in my family grew up in the East or lived there, so I don't have those personal contacts. When I go to the East, I don't notice much difference. Of course, there's the dialect. But then the Hamburg and Bavarian dialects are different too, so that doesn't seem strange.
Up to 90 cakes a week go to cafes, restaurants, caterers, and companies in and around Munich.
My greatest fear is that we'll fail. It's still difficult right now. We pay ourselves very little, and we've made some major investments, which we need to pay off. So it will take a while before we earn anything.
As social entrepreneurs, Katharina and Katrin are part of a trend. According to a recent study, young professionals want companies to demonstrate social responsibility. Most highly educated young Germans aren't motivated solely by ambition. Only 37% say they want to make it to the very top of their profession. But there is a noticeable gender gap. Almost half of all men see themselves in a leadership position. Only a third of women have similar ambitions.
When I told people I wanted to quit school a year before finishing, travel the world and work on my surfing, most people thought I was a bit nuts. The most important things are love, fun and surfing.
At age 25, Adrian Beholz is one of the world's top freestyle windsurfers. For the past 6 years, he's traveled the world in pursuit of wind and waves.
This is and always has been my life's dream. Many people tell me my life is awesome, but I tell them they shouldn't be jealous. This dream means I have to sacrifice all kinds of things that many people find important.
Adrian was born in 1990 near Lake Constance. When he's not traveling, he now lives in Kiel. He's made the city his home and has a close circle of friends there.
We should see ourselves as citizens of the world. I always wanted to go beyond borders, both national and local ones. I want to focus on our shared humanity and the many problems we have to solve together in the future.
Adrian lives in a small shack with a garden and no running water. Windsurfing is not a sport with a mass audience. Most of his income comes from sponsorships.
I've decided to try to do without luxury. Some years when I was traveling, I had a budget of 3 or 4 euros a day. I lived like the locals. And you see how trivial things are that Germans often complain about. Other things are important, like having enough to eat, and having a community and social interaction. And the people are surprisingly happy.
Traveling the world has changed Adrian's perspective on Germany. For him, German reunification is an issue that transcends national borders.
For a variety of reasons, German reunification is a reason to celebrate. One reason, of course, is that Germany is one again, but it also symbolizes international politics and the end of the Soviet-American crisis, which really ended then.
At 25, Adrian is at the top of his game. But life as a professional windsurfer offers little security.
I'm not afraid of the future. During my travels, I had so many encounters where things could have gone completely differently. So I know the future could bring anything.
This optimism is typical of young Germans of his generation. Despite the ongoing economic crisis in Europe, young Germans have a great deal of confidence in the future. 82% say they are more optimistic than pessimistic. Only 12% say they are pessimistic about the future. But there are differences between Eastern and Western Germany. Young people who spent most of their life in Eastern Germany have less confidence in the future.
What I worry about most is peace in the world. The things happening in other parts of the world also have an impact on Europe. Money isn't that important. And you can always find food. But living together in peace, that's the most important thing.
The Kober family is having a get-together in Berlin. The grandparents support the young family as best they can. 3 generations who have experienced very different Germanys. But Hendrik believes that things will be different for his children.
Our children have the chance to grow up as a truly independent generation. They can grow up as unified Germans, so to speak. What they make of that remains to be seen.
This generation of young Germans, the 25-year-olds, take German unity for granted. For nearly 3/4 of them, German reunification is the most important historical event of the past 3 decades. And nearly all of them, 93%, say it's a good thing that Germany is reunified.
I like the idea that 25 years ago, a decision was made to open the borders and say there's just one Germany.
I'm grateful to the people who took to the streets back then and fought for the freedom I enjoy today.
It's a very positive event in German history, so we should celebrate it. It shows that the people have the power to fix problems and create change.
Barriers were lifted, borders were abolished. So it's very sad to see that today, in Eastern Europe, 25 years later, the same border fences are being used again for different reasons.